walk through how PPM360 extends it, and then jump right into the demo. And this session is going to be recorded, so we'll send it out afterward in case you need to drop early or want to share it with your team. But please feel free to jump in throughout with any questions. You can unmute or drop it in the chat. We want this to be as helpful and interactive as possible. Okay, so a little bit about Marquee 360. We are a Microsoft Gold partner for work management and M365 cloud solutions. And all that really means is that Microsoft has recognized us as a trusted partner to work closely with their team in supporting customers throughout their Microsoft investment. And everything we do is grounded in Microsoft 365 and the Power Platform. So our solutions fit naturally into the tools that your company may already be using. Marquee 360 was actually founded by former Microsoft employees who have been in the work management space for over 20 years and have seen many iterations of Microsoft's project tools. So everything from the old Project Server to Project Online, and then more recently, Planner, where Microsoft is shifting a lot of their focus. And their goal with starting Marquee 360 was really just to build solutions that help teams operate more efficiently and create more productive organizations. We focus on three really big areas here. The first being innovation, where we extend Microsoft's work management tools and get insight from their product teams to make sure that we're up to date with the newest technologies. Right now, the Power Platform is where Microsoft is focusing a lot of their work, giving teams the ability to have those low-code solutions using Power Apps, Power Automate, and Power BI. Customer success is another key area for us, where we take a very consultative approach and work very closely with your team to help design the right platform, implement it, and fully adopt it. After that, we don't just leave you with a solution and not help. We continue with support and training, staying very close with our customers through workshops and hands-on training to make sure your team has everything you need to be successful. As some of you have probably heard, Project Online is going away in September of next year. So if your team is currently on Project Online and exploring what the different options may be as you move away from that, we're happy to have a separate conversation on if that's a move to a planner with a tool like PPM360 to have similar functionality, or if it's Project Server, we're happy to have that conversation afterwards. So the new Microsoft Planner, if you haven't had a chance to go in and play with it, is a pretty big evolution from the planner, what it was in the past. It's easy to use and easy to adopt, but also very flexible and scalable to manage very complex work. And it also has, I don't know why, oh, there it is. It has Copilot and some AI functionality built in to help accelerate planning, automate updates, and support your day-to-day work. Okay, so now the focus for today's demo, which is PPM360, our Planner Accelerator. We really wanted to build something on top of Planner that makes it a full project and portfolio management experience. So you can manage intake and prioritization, scheduling and communication, time tracking, resource management, all in one connected tool. We combine tools like Power Apps, Power Automate, and Power BI to make it a full end-to-end project management solution in one place. Planner is still going to be used as that scheduling piece, but we enhance it to give you things like an intake application, timesheets, financial tracking, and then integrate it all with Teams and Outlook for collaboration and help automate workflows through Power BI and give you some interactive reports with Power BI. Everything we do is also built and designed to work with Microsoft's Copilot and AI updates to help you leverage AI to make project management even more efficient. With PPM360, everything is brought into one connected experience and lets you easily navigate portfolios, programs, resources, and department level project views. One of the biggest advantages is how extensible the platform is. So you can easily start with one part of your organization and then expand the same structure to other business units as needed. All right, I'll go ahead and pass it over to Mia to get started on the demo. And like I said, if any questions come up throughout, please feel free to just jump in and ask.
Great. Thanks so much for the introduction, Charlene, and for letting us know what we're going to be looking at today. I've just started sharing, and on my screen, I have open the PPM360 homepage. PPM360, as Charlene mentioned, is where we provide this one connected experience. It is a pre-configured solution, but it's highly customizable. So I'd like you to keep in mind as we walk through this that I'm going to show you our out-of-the-box solution. Having this ready out of the box means that we can quickly deploy it and start using it. But then also it is flexible. So if we need to customize, most of this can be customized. While we walk through, if you have any questions about specific customizations, we'd be happy to stop and talk about that. So feel free and put anything that you have into the chat. So when we're navigating around PPM360, there is this menu on the left that we can use to see different parts throughout the project lifecycle. So what we're going to do is walk through, and we're going to start out with an intake request. We'll look at that process of gathering ideas for new projects. We'll talk about how those ideas get sent out for approval, and then we'll see those become new projects. With our new projects, we'll be able to walk through how everything is set up, what the PMs will do, how the reporting looks, and we'll get to see this full life cycle. So on the homepage, which is what we're looking at now, what we're going to see is a roll up. All of the different projects that exist in the system right now, they roll up and display in these charts that are on the homepage. This homepage is really flexible. We can change any of the charts that display here to fit exactly what you use, but then we also have the flexibility to create different pages here. Power BI reports can be embedded here, so there are lots of possibilities. When we are at the very beginning of the project lifecycle and we're submitting or collecting ideas for new project requests, we'll see that there's a link here to what we call Intake 360. It's part of our overall PPM 360 solution. And everything that we're looking at today, it's built using the Power Platform. So our PPM 360 solution is based on Power Apps. This is a Canvas Power App, which means that it's really easy to share. All we need to do is share the app, and then anybody can have access to it. So when we're looking at our intake portal, we'll be able to see the existing intake requests. So this is something that you could share with your entire organization, or you could choose to share it with a smaller group. But whenever someone comes here, they'll be able to see a list of the existing requests. In this example, I'm only seeing the requests that are related to me in some way. So either someone mentioned that I'm going to be the project sponsor or the project manager, or I've made the request myself. So I'll see those here. With each one of these requests, you can also expand them so that you can see some additional details without opening up the full request. I've already created one here for us to start using. I've saved it as a draft, so we'll be able to open that up and search. One thing I want to note before we open up a request is that as we scroll down here, you'll see this list is quite long. So for people that are involved with multiple requests, or if we're showing every request to the system to people, there is a little search here. And the search is really good. It's an inclusive search. So as long as you know any part of a request name, the matching results will display over here. Right? That really helps also because it's hard to remember the exact name of a request, but as long as we can get part of it, you can get it in your search results. All of this that we're looking at so far is part of what's configurable. The fields that we display here, the columns that we're displaying on the top, and even the fields we show in this preview. So what I'll do now is I'm going to open up this draft. I'm going to click here and then I'll be able to edit the draft. Note that there's this menu here. I would be able to create a new request from here. So we'll open up the draft and then we'll open it for editing. The way we have this organized, there are different pages over here on the left, and then each page is going to have different information on it. One of the things to note here is that some fields are required. When we're building this and implementing it, that's one of the things we need to keep in mind. We have to keep in mind when we're putting this together and gathering even your requirements for this, that we need to make sure that the people filling this out, that we're not requiring anything of them that would be, above what they know. So we'll talk about this with you during requirements gathering and make sure that we're presenting the right fields at the right time. In our out-of-the-box solution and in our demo environment, it's very straightforward. We've got these different pages with different fields on them. As we scroll down, you'll be able to see more of those fields. But this could be a little bit more streamlined, or it could be more customized so that it meets different needs. So you'll see here that there's a request type. If we have different types of requests, we might require different information. So what we can do is have it so that when somebody selects a specific request type, it shows the appropriate fields, and then later on down the line creates the right type of project. So I have an IT project selected here, but if this is something that was an agile project that should be created in DevOps or synced with DevOps, we could select this and it would give us our right schedule template and create the project and even start to initiate a sync between Azure DevOps and PPM360. So those are some things to keep in mind here as well. What I'll do now is I'm going to go ahead and add myself as the project sponsor. Right, and I've pre-filled a lot of this here already. Just keep in mind that for each organization with different needs, these fields can all change. So our request information is general information about the request that we're making. For project details, this tells us a little bit more about what this project would actually look like. So our timeline is here, the proposed PM is here, and then our benefits, both our cost benefits, but also our narrative of benefits. All right, and then next there is scoring that we include as well. With the scoring, what we'll do is we'll list out your business drivers. So all of those things that we need to keep an eye on as an organization. And what we can do with each one of these drivers, for example, expand into new markets and segments, is we can use the drop down here to select a rating. So for this specific request, let's say that it's going to grow revenue from new markets and segments between 500K and 1 million. And then as we select these, you'll see that the priority score here gets recalculated. Now the priority score here, for demoing purposes, it's very straightforward. We're showing you a number here and then this gets calculated. It's possible, of course, to not show a number here and have this just show a low, medium, high. It's also possible to have a weighted score. So if improving product quality is our biggest driver for this year or this quarter, we can go ahead and weight this so that the score that we add here has a higher weighting and a higher impact on our overall score. And then lastly, the next page is for attachments. This is where we can attach any supplemental information we have. No matter how many fields we add in here on these different pages, sometimes it really helps to have an attached form. So if there was a previous project that's similar or any other information that would be helpful when making a decision about whether we should create a project from this or not, we can attach the files here. All right, and then when we're done with everything, we'll be able to confirm. We see the check marks here listed on the left side. That lets us know that all the required fields have been filled out. What we can do is we could save this as a draft if we want to do one last look over, or we can go ahead and submit, and that will start the approval process. Before we go over and start talking about the approval process, though, I do want to check in with everyone. Does anybody have any questions about what we've seen so far? All right. So what'll happen next is that we'll be able to track this request as it moves through the approval process. You'll see this grid here. It's letting us know that our request was submitted, and right now approval is pending. As the workflow works, it's going to start to look at our detailed approval process and then take the appropriate steps. One of the things that we should note is that we start every implementation with requirements gathering. Part of what we'll talk through is what your approval process looks like. You'll see this one is really simple. There's one approval step, and then once it's approved, it'll go ahead and create the project for us. In real life, sometimes it's a little bit more complicated. So we may have it set up so that it goes out for one group to approve. That approver group may need to add in more fields. Maybe they'll need to update the scoring. And then we can have it go to another group for approval. The approval steps can also be based on information that we've added in the request form, like the project department or the location. So we can use all of that information to make sure that the right people are reviewing this for approval and adding in their input. All right, so let's look at the approval process a little bit more. I'm going to show you my Outlook. And I'm kind of wearing two hats during the webinar today. First, I'm the requester. As we saw, I submitted this for approval. So there is a notification here letting me know that this was successfully submitted and that I'll be notified when the status changes. So that's good to know as the requester. But I'm also the approver on this request. And as the approver, I get an email that looks like this. It's letting me know that this request was created and submitted to me for approval. There's a link to the request here. So good idea to use the link to go back to the form and make sure that I'm in agreement with everything that's there. If there's something that has happened, maybe I realize that with what I know as an approver, this request isn't the best idea for us to do right now, right? I might put this on hold. I could also reject it if it's something that we don't want to come back to. Otherwise, if there's a question, I can request more information. For today, of course, I'm going to approve just so that we can see the process of getting a project created. The comments that we enter in here, these get sent back to the requester. And if there are more approvers down the line after me, these can be sent to them as well and stored as part of that request. One thing that I didn't show, but should have, is that the request comes through email, the request for approval, but it also gets sent to Microsoft Teams. So in the activity section here, we'll get to see that something was submitted. I already approved it through the email, so it's going to track that here. It won't ask me to approve it in both places. It'll just let me know that this has already been approved. All right, so we can see my comment here and that I responded with approve. And later on, we'll be able to come back to Teams and we'll be able to use and update our projects in Microsoft Teams as well. So we're really heavy into integrating with Microsoft Teams. We'll be able to see more of that later on. Notice that after I approved this request, the format of this email changes. So that way, when I am getting, let's say it's the end of the quarter, maybe, and I'm getting a whole lot of those requests sent to me, it's easy to track which ones I've already responded to because the email really, in a straightforward way, is going to show me that. This also becomes useful if we have approval groups. Sometimes, it might not just be me that needs to approve, but maybe it's Charlene and me. In that case, if one of us needs to approve, we can still tell that this was approved by the other person here, and we know that no action is needed from us. Right, I have one more email notification to show. This is a notification that comes to me as the requester. It's letting me know that this was approved and that the project will be created. One thing to note also, just when it comes to customizations, right? We're seeing everything that's out of the box here, but anything that you need to customize, that's something that you should share with us. We can even customize like the text in the emails and which emails come out and when, who's notified. You'll see here I'm getting one more email letting me know that I've been added to this project, and I've got a link to the project here, so I can quickly go ahead and view it. Back in the intake portal, I can refresh here to see the status. We can see now that this request was submitted, approved, and a project was created. And one thing that's really handy is that we get to see the final status here. And there's a link over to the project that's created. So if I need to quickly get over to that project, I can do it using this link. There's also a link back over to the main portal here. And what I'm going to do is just go back over to the main homepage, all right? Because this is our starting point for everything. Notice here that as we start to work on things, little notifications will pop up. We have created these in-app notifications so that as we're working on a project and assigned to tasks or issues or risks, that we get the notification there to know that we're assigned to it. Let's go ahead and I want to next show a project plan. So far, looking at this left menu, we've looked at requests. We saw the approvals, which we can do through here too. Now we'll go over to plans. With our project plans, there are multiple views. So this view in particular is showing us our Gantt chart. We get to see every project that's in the system, and we get to see an overview of the project itself. So as we look at this, you'll see the green, yellow, and red. Those are representing the overall health of the projects. You'll notice that some of these are blue too, and that's just because they're newer projects and the status hasn't been set yet. So we don't yet know if they're green, yellow, or red because they're brand new. Even if there's a time span like this, one of the things that we can do is we set up our projects sometimes with templates. So we might have a brand new project that does have a time frame already and still is waiting for its first status. Notice also we can hover over one of these and get some more high-level details. So we get to see how far along the project is with the shading here and also with the pop-up that we're seeing. We get to see who the PM is, and we've got a good idea of how things are going. There are different views, and one of the things I want to point out for the people that are coming over from Project Online, this is equivalent to your Project Center. And you can have different views set up here, just like you do in the Project Center and Project Online. But one of the things that takes this a little bit to a higher level is that each individual resource, we can edit our columns, we can edit our filters, and create our own views. We can do that in Project Online, right? You can set a column and it'll stick there with you until you change it again. But here we actually get to create a view ourselves. So when we make any updates to a column or to filters or both, it'll give us the option to save that as a new view. And then we can even save that new view and then set it as our default. So we have a lot of room to play around and really make this what we need. While we're looking at this, one of the reasons that the views are important, this is also, a step beyond what Project Online can do, is we can use these views and actually type into them. So this view, I don't really want to change a project name through here or anything like that, but I will go to this prioritization summary. Remember on that intake form, we were able to look at our scoring tab, select some drivers and ratings, and then we got a prioritization score. That prioritization score shows in this prioritization summary view. It's associated with a ranking, but then this allows us to also override that ranking. So we can see that with this demo project, right, we've got some high-level information that we chose to add to this view, but then we can also type in this. So if this one, let's say that this University of Laval project shouldn't be a 10, let's say it should be a 2, right? We can type directly in here and then start to rearrange things and really see our priorities here. So being able to type into these views and create your own views really helps a lot. I'm going to go back over to the My Active Plans view. We've got our webinar project here, and I'm going to actually open up a different project just so we can see a project that has some data in it already. I'm going to go over to this demo project. And when we open a project, we get to see everything that we get to update during the project. So at the very top, there are your basic controls here. So our options to save or save and close are here. We've got Prodigy, which is a really cool application that we've added in here. What this does is it allows me to look at this project and ask it questions. So this is an example of what Charlene mentioned with the slides earlier, how this is working with AI. We are able to use this to ask questions about our project. A lot of times, our boss will contact me and say, how are things going with that risk you log for this project? This allows me to quickly go ahead and ask the system about risks. You'll see the option here, perform risk analysis. I can simply type that in here or even copy and paste, and then it will tell me about the risks related to this project. If I need to generate a business case, for example, too, it will also do that for me. So there's plenty of great information that we can get from here. And if you have certain questions that you'll need to be able to ask pretty often, what we do is we even customize this part so that you can have those pre-listed here. And then your team can go ahead and copy and paste and use those prompts that are preset to get that information back. So Prachi is thinking now, and what it'll start to bring back is a long list of well, not a long list, but a detailed list of the risks that I have in this project. So it'll let me to go look at these risks that I have, and it'll even make some suggestions for me. So when it comes to mitigating this particular risks, it's giving me a plan here and a contingency option too. Right? So lots of great information comes back through this assistant. Right? And as busy as things get, especially during this time of year, having an assistant to help you out is really a helpful touch to everything. So that's something that's there to help throughout the project lifecycle. All right, as we start to look more at this particular project, you'll see that there is a governance workflow at the top. This governance workflow in this example has approvals at each stage, but this is again something that we would customize for you after talking with you during the requirements gathering. So what we'll see here is there's this bullseye for our current stage. What we can do is we can indicate that our deliverables are complete and then submit to the next stage. When we do that, you'll see that it's going to request an approval. The approvals are just very similar to what we saw with intake. As the approver of this project, I would expect an email, maybe a Teams notification to come through, and then I would approve through there. There's a link to the project as well if I want to actually review and make sure that all the initiation steps are completed before moving in or before approving to move into planning. Right, so that's all handled here. Remember that the approval steps are not necessary. We have a lot of customers that have initiation and then they'll go straight into planning. We also have a lot of customers that don't use these exact stages, so that's fine too. And then below the workflow, there are these different tabs. And the tabs are where we're going to see all of the different project data. So the summary tab is going to have general information about the project. A lot of this information is pre-filled when we first open up the project. What's really helpful is that from the intake request, right, we entered in a lot of information. They asked us about project data on there. There was a page for project information, and we filled out most of it. But what that'll do is it'll give us a basis. It'll carry over that information into the project. So that gives the PM a little bit of a head start. Anything that comes over from the project or from the project request, the PM can overwrite or edit. It's just meant to give them a head start to pre-populate that. And that even applies to the attachments. Attachments that are entered in on the intake form can also carry over into the project in case they're still relevant. So if we look at our summary page a little bit, there are a couple of key things that I'll point out here. So there are general fields. We'll talk during requirements gathering about which fields you need. Project manager, of course, will stay there. Your project sponsor, your business unit, there are different field types that we can use to capture the information that you need. What I'm going to focus on a little bit more for today are the unique fields that we have in here. One is for the Microsoft Teams integration. So you can choose to integrate your project with Microsoft Teams. And what that will do is it will give you a chance to update your project within Microsoft Teams. And then you can also sync this with Planner, which will give your team more visibility. When they're assigned to tasks, they'll get to see those in Planner, make their updates in Planner, and that makes it really easy, one, for the team members to update their tasks, but also as the owner of a plan, it makes it so that we're more likely to get some detailed real-time updates on tasks. I'm going to take just a little moment here to show Teams again. And here I do have a project that is synced over with PPM360. So first, when we're looking at a team that's created from a PPM360 project, we first are going to have the post tab, just like always on the general tab, we'll have it. So this allows us to post. We can mention people, we can share documents, all the great stuff that Teams has always allowed us to do. You might have files or you might see shared like I do here, but this is where the files will be. If we choose to email the team or upload something in the post tab, or just upload documents straight to here, we'll be able to see them in this section. We've got a OneNote notebook, which I love to use. And then there's project details. Project details is going to be everything that we were just looking at in that project that I had open in the browser. And the great thing here is that this is really providing a window into that project. So whether we update some of the information for the workflow or for the summary tab here or in the browser, it's still updating the same source. So we don't have to worry about ever having to make an update in one place and then going over to the other place to make the same update. It's going to update both places at the same time. So anything that we need to do for the project, we can do through here. There's also another tab that we add, and this is more aimed at the team members specifically. If we go to tasks here, this is essentially planner, and this is where we can update our tasks and make assignments. But we also have a project tasks tab here. And this will show us all the tasks related to the project. So if I'm a person assigned to this project, what I'll typically do is come in here and look at these tasks. This has quite a few tasks, right? This is all using a template that was added to this project when it was created, but there is a filter I can use here so that I can just look at the tasks that are assigned to me, and then I can make sure that I'm going through here and updating those tasks accordingly. So it really helps to focus in and view those. Because this is Planner, this gives us some other options as well. When we go over to Planner in Teams or in the browser, any team member can view their tasks. Tasks that are due today, they'll see listed here. So you can see my task for this webinar is listed here on the My Day section. And then of course the demo task is here too. So every team member will be able to see this and know what they're responsible for today. This also will pull together all of someone's tasks, right? So from here, I can view all of my tasks in a board view or a grid view. And what's really powerful here is that I can see the tasks that are assigned to me. These are tasks from different projects. So we'll see this demo project that we were looking at in the browser is here. Our webinar project will be down here a little bit farther down. But then there are also tasks that I assign to myself, right? Updating my tips and tricks document that we're going to share with customers. That's on here as a personal task for myself. Send some notifications to my boss. I keep that open on this list. But I have all these things here just as my personal reminders. I also, as I'm going through my email, will flag a lot of things. So I have those flagged emails that show here too under my tasks. So bringing everything together in this one area helps the team members to stay on top of things, but it even helps us as people managing a project or managing a team to stay on top of the tasks that we have for ourselves. All right, so that's more of Teams, and we can always go back there if we want to chat with somebody or check our activity tab to make an approval. If we're there in Teams already and we want to make a project update, everything's right there for us. Right now, I'm back in the browser and we're looking at our demo project again. If we're looking here, one of the other things that's unique are the programs and portfolios. Each project can be tied with either a program or a portfolio, or both. And in this case, what you'll do to associate your project with a portfolio, I'm going to press enter here. We'll see a list of the existing portfolios. Since the program is healthcare, I'm going to make the portfolio healthcare too. But what's nice here is that here, when we look at reports, we can filter the reports so that we can focus on a specific program or a specific portfolio or a combination. And then we get to see all the details there. All the information that we're capturing here does roll up and show in our report pack. And we do have a pre-configured report pack that comes with PPM360. So I'm going to go over and just quickly show the programs. Here, from the project manager's perspective, we're simply choosing which program this project aligns with. But when it comes to actually setting up those programs or portfolios, what happens is that the people that manage those, they'll come to this page. Over here on the left, you'll see programs and portfolios. There's a new option at the top if you want to create a new item. For us today, I'm just going to open up an existing one. In the view here, we do get some high-level information. We can see that there are 3 active projects here. 1 is at risk and 2 are in trouble. So let's go ahead and we'll take a deeper look. We have our tabs along the top here. So the general tab is where we're defining this program. So our state, as this is created, it's going to start out as active, and then it might be updated later on. We can classify this any way we want. Again, the columns or fields that we see here, they're all pretty flexible. So we can do that and identify those during the requirements gathering at the very beginning. One thing that you should note about us also is that when we do an implementation, at the end, we will do training. We'll train typically by role. So we'll train team members, resource managers if you need it, and project managers, but also administrators. And with the administrators, we'll teach you how to update the columns here. So it's possible to hide columns if you're not using it, but also you can add new columns. You can update values that are here. Because we set this up in each customer's environment with their own accounts, then it makes it so that this is available to you at all times to make any updates that you need. So lots of flexibility here and lots of ability to make changes even after the implementation. There's a status tab here too. So this is where we'll start to see 2 levels of information. With the KPIs, we can manually set this, right? So we can click on the drop down and choose. I'm going to say that the overall program health is at risk, right? Because we do have some projects here that are at risk or in trouble. And let's say that our schedule is at risk. With the program count, this is going to be a roll-up of all of the projects that are associated with this program. So we get to see how many active projects, how many are at risk, how many are in trouble. With the financials, we've defined the program, and we're able to say that for this program, when it was created, someone put in that our budget is 100K. We've got our benefits in here too, and then we can have calculated fields when it comes to financials as well. So these are the program financials that define this program. One of the things we also need to consider, though, is for all the projects that are in this program, what their totals are. And that's what we see on the right side. So with project financials, this is a roll-up from each project that's in this program. The total budget is $150,000. So we can see that we've gone a little bit over here, and we've got some things to work out. But the program does provide this nice visibility where we get to make sure that we're on top of things like this by being able to quickly identify our budget for the program overall and where we actually are with the projects in this program. Right. And then with timeline, we get to see our projects. Same with the projects here, we get to see them along with, their KPI status indicator. And there's a link here. So we see this project is in trouble. This is the one that we've been looking at today. So if we need to go and get a deeper idea of why this is in trouble, we can go ahead and click on the link here. It'll open up the project for us, and then we can do that deep dive. I'm not going to show portfolios today. They're just like programs, but lighter. And then as we scroll down here, our plan, start, and finish, this came over from the intake request. So we do have some information that pre-populates. Business case and project charter. This can be information, especially on the project charter, that comes over from the intake. And then just keep in mind that you can still edit the information even if it populates from intake. The financials that we saw roll up in the programs, the basis of those is here. So the PM can enter in their budget, their forecast, actuals from here. We also have a financials module. And if you'd like to see more about the financials module, let us know. We can definitely set up a demo to show you more information about that. But it provides a place to track line items for your actual costs, for your budget, and for your forecast. It also syncs with other software or allows manual entry of purchase requisitions, purchase orders, and or invoices. So then what this does is it all comes together and calculates here. So the PM has an idea of where they stand financially. We've come across a lot of our customers that have PMs that don't really understand where things are financially, and they might need to reach out to somebody else to get that information. What we really focus on, like Charlene mentioned earlier, is one connected experience. So if we can integrate with something else to make sure that all the information is in one place, we are happy to do that. All right. Let's go ahead and we'll take a look at the status. We saw earlier that the status of this project is red, that we're overall in trouble. So let's take another look at how that came to be as far as how it was entered in by the PM. So at the top part with the summary, it's going to just let us know the summary of the project, right? Where we are right now. As we scroll down, we'll start to see our different weeks, right? So we get to see that we started out with everything green, and then we had something happen. So I'm going to open up this status report. And we'll get to see here. So this one, for demoing purposes, isn't going to tell us a lot about why we made this in trouble. It was for demoing purposes. But what we'll see here is that the overall health is calculated, right? So we can calculate this based on the actual schedule and the tasks are in the schedule. We can calculate budget based on risks or issues if you have some that are related to budget or resources or scope. So these can all be calculated in different ways. Right now, out of the box, we have it set so that if any one of these is in trouble, the overall health display is in trouble. Or if any one of these is at risk, the overall will display as at risk. And then, of course, if everything is green, overall will display as green. One of the things that we do also is we build in automations to make life a little bit easier for the project managers. Two of those automations are built into this form. First is the submitted to. When I click on submitted to, what this will do is it will generate a nicely formatted email and it will send that out to whomever's name is here. So it's got every bit of information from here, just formatted in a more digestible way. And then the other automation that's built in here is the option to copy a status report. Sometimes, especially with longer projects, we might do our status report for 1 week, and then the next week when we go to do our status, maybe not a lot has changed. In that case, instead of copying over, our next steps and our additional comments, instead of copying those from one entry into the next, we can copy this entire entry. When we click yes here and then save it, what that'll do is it will create a copy of this, and then we can go ahead and just simply update the copy. One of the things that we all get a lot of pleasure out of doing is introducing things like that that help to make life easier. So we are always interested in feedback from you and our customers about what we can add to this to make it easier. And then we typically build that into our out-of-the-box solution so that everybody gets that. This status area, where we go ahead and click on a new item and then we start to fill out a form, we've got other areas that are set up like that too. Risks, for example. I'm going to give us a little more space by collapsing the menu here. With risks, there's an option to create a new item, but we also have this board view here with risks. You'll see that there is one item here already, a risk that probably a lot of us are facing right now. We can expand this to view more data about it. We can also edit this if we need to. And maybe also if we're looking at this isn't related to health and safety, we can drag and drop this so it's in the resources column. So the drag and drop is very similar to what we all do with Planner, and that's incorporated here too. So we have that same kind of feel. This risk is opening in a separate tab. So what we're going to do is be able to open this risk up and view the data related to it. There's an automation built in here too, and it's the ability to convert this risk into an issue. You'll see that I've already done this from here, and it also appended the name of the risk to let us all know that an issue was created based on this risk. So if a risk actually happens and it becomes an issue, a lot of what we were hearing from our potential customers and our customers is that it's annoying to go ahead and create an issue and fill in the same information that we've already captured here. So with this automation, convert risk to issue, when you select yes here, it'll create an issue for you based on the information in this risk. So it saves you a lot of time. With our issues, we'll be able to see those here. We can see that this issue is the one that was created, and it looks like we've already closed it out. There are change requests that we can track here too. We can create new items from here if we want to. So when we identify something that is a big change, what we'll do is fill out the form here. There's an automation built here too, so that we get to track all the information related to the change, but also related to the approval here. So once we're going through this and approving, what we'll do is we'll assign this to someone. And then when we change the approval to requested and save this, what it'll do is it will request approval from whoever's name is here. Keep in mind that when I talk to you about these types of automations that are built in, this is what comes out of the box. But if you need it to be a little bit different, maybe it goes to the project sponsor that we identified on the summary tab. That is perfectly fine and something we can easily accomplish. Decisions that we make during calls are logged in a similar way. Same with lessons learned. So we get to track those throughout our project. I did want to make sure that we touch on a couple of things. First is, with I'm going to go back over to Teams. Sometimes I like to make updates in this interface, but just remember that everything we did in the project is here too. With tasks, this is essentially Planner. So we do have a lot of webinars already related to Planner. So on our YouTube, you can check there because we upload all of our webinars there. You can also reach out. We'd be happy to walk you through Teams and Planner and let you know how to use this Planner app. One of the things that Charlene mentioned in the slides is that Planner has really changed over the years. In the beginning, it was very much, a simple thing to go to maybe create some tasks for yourself or a small team. It has expanded so much in the last couple of years so that we can use this to manage our project tasks. You'll see that templates can be included here, right? There are also these different views. Each view has, its own things that are unique, but nice to use. There are board views where we can drag and drop. We can group these in different ways so that we get to really quickly make assignments just by dragging and dropping. There is a timeline view where you can easily view your tasks and also update dependencies. And then also you can do things a little bit quicker than we could sometimes with Project Online. If we need to look at our critical path, there's a simple toggle there. I need to scroll down a little bit, but it'll highlight our critical tasks for us so that we can't miss them. And then there are charts, there are goals that we can track. So if we have certain things that we need to run by the legal department for every project, for example, we can set that up as our goal and associate some of our tasks with it. So lots we can do. And then we've also added a way to take baselines. So it's really simple. Project Online gives you 10 or 11 baselines, and we've added up to 15 here to start out with. We can add more if you need them. So that's really something that's helpful and easy to use. I want to make sure that we also get to look at our out-of-the-box report pack. So on our left menu here, there is a link to the reports. With PPM360, you get the report pack, and it's got several pre-configured reports that show data at many different levels. So if we are looking at this, the menu on the left here will show us each report page. The request dashboard is all related to those intake requests that we saw at the beginning. In real life, when we are working through this life cycle, it is very common to have your intake requests submitted, but really to view them through here. What we can do here is make sure that requests are getting responded to in a timely manner. We can use this to filter down. Now we're seeing the submitted requests that haven't been approved or rejected yet. So what we can do is we can make sure that we're following up with these sponsors so that they can make sure that they're answering the requests that are assigned to them. The priority score is also here, so we can use that during meetings to look at different requests and see if our priorities actually do line up with these, or if we need to overwrite some priorities and start to change the priorities that are here. There are several reports at the portfolio level, and really these show us every project in the system. What we'll do is we'll use filters to really focus in on certain data. So if we are interested in one specific portfolio, what we'll do is we'll select that portfolio here and we'll be able to see the projects related with that. We may want more of this overall view, right? And if we want to make sure that things are on track overall, we can use these to filter down. We'll see which projects are in trouble, and now we know which projects need help. So this can really help us to stay on top of things and make sure that the people that need help are getting the attention that they need. Same with the projects that are at risk. The portfolio dashboard is more general. There's a timeline also. And you can look at this by quarter, by week, by month, and then select what time frame you want. Today always shows here, and then you get to see the projects that are in the system. One real life application here is when we're looking at intake requests and creating projects, we might need to think about who's available to be the PM on a new project. This lists the PM here and the time frame, so we get to see who is available. Right, and then milestones will pick up the milestones from the project and display them. There's program help. We'll take a quick look at the status reports. So this will give us the status for whatever project is selected. And to give us a little more space here, I'm sharing my smaller screen today, so I want to make sure I make this a little bit bigger for everybody to see. But for this project, we get to see the recent accomplishments, the next steps, and the additional comments, but also information across the whole project. Our risks are here, issues and changes are here as well. We get to see how this project is doing. There is a dashboard also for risks and for issues. This will grab all of those items across all projects and display them here. One thing that's really interesting that we didn't talk a lot about is resources. We can always talk more about resources with you if you'd like, or you can use some of our previously recorded webinars related to resources. But just quickly, we do have a resource assignment report. This will show us every assignment in the system. We see the resources here. We can expand it to see what projects people are assigned to, and we can expand that to see their individual tasks. We get an idea not just of our timeline, but also how far along people are as far as progress, how much effort is assigned. So when we're going in to make assignments, we get to make a really, really educated assessment of who is available to work on things. With availability, we have a place where we have a heat map. PMs can see how much time they need from people, and then we can evaluate that here on the heat map and change priorities as needed. So if we're going through this, what I'll typically do is select a person during a month and just review what they're assigned to and then see what's going over. This allows us to see what list of items people have requested Allison for in this case, and then we can go ahead and prioritize to make sure that we've got Allison on the right projects and not over allocated. And then there are a couple others with tasks and a project timeline. These are customizable also, so please keep that in mind that we can make changes here to accomplish what you need when you're looking at your own projects. All right, I have tried to leave a couple